up, guys? Welcome back to Marvel Madness, episode 5. My name is Kyle, your host. Welcome to Project Potter, guys. If you haven't been here before, this is our in-review show of Marvel's What If series on Disney+. Really dug this episode, guys. What it covers is a rambling recap, which is like a quick recap of the episode. A strongest character, a weakest character, a score out of 10. If you guys like the content, please consider going and checking out the other content. There's whole bunch of Marvel content, guys. I am a slave and a sucker for Marvel. It's been hard for me to kind of warm up to What If, but the last 2 episodes have been really good, and this one is no joke. So jumping off with a recap here, guys. So this one is all about, it starts off, once again, the Watcher's talking to us. The Watcher is so cool, dude. I love that character. And it starts off at the beginning of Infinity War, where Bruce Banner is sent through the Bifrost. That's Heimdall's dying wish. He's sent there, and the Watcher is like, Bruce returned home, but the world he came home to was one he had never seen before. And so he crashes through the Sanctorum, and he's like, Thanos is coming, and I'm like, oh, really cool moment. But instead of Doctor Strange and Wong looking over him, no one's there. And he's like, hello, is anyone there? And Doctor Strange's cape is chilling there, and eventually we find out that Bruce goes outside. Thanos' children show up there, but everything's like dusty, and he's like, oh no. And everyone has just turned into a zombie. So Thanos' children show up, the Squidward guy and the big dude, I forget their names, I'll probably put it in there, the Black Order. They come up, and I think they take the line ripped from the movie where they say, you have been blessed to be saved by the great Titan or whatever. And then Bruce is like, okay, he's like, time to get big. And he's like, Rrr. And then he's like, no. He's like, what do you mean no? And we've seen this before where Bruce had issues becoming the Hulk after that. Whether that was part of his fight with Thanos and getting beat by Thanos, maybe that changed him. I don't know. I didn't think about that until just now, but who knows? But Bruce can't become the Hulk. And so he's like, oh no. And then we see the Doctor Strange circles come through, and then we see like the outlines of Tony, Doctor Strange, and I think Thor is in there, I'm not sure, but basically he's like, oh, the Avengers, thank God. And he's like, oh, because Squidward is talking, and then you see Tony's pulse gauntlet like right behind him, and he shoots him, and Bruce is like, oh, you're in trouble now. And then they start kind of beating them up, and then all of a sudden they start eating them, and Bruce is like, oh no, that's not good. He's like, guys, that's kind of overkill. And then we find out obviously that they're all zombies, and really, really cool, visually awesome job with all the animation in this episode. Eventually Bruce is saved by partly Doctor Strange's cape, but Spider-Man comes in, swings in, and I don't think this was Tom Holland. I'm not sure, I gotta look that up. I'll put it in here whether it was or not. Some of it sounded just like Tom Holland, some of it I was like, this sounds like a knockoff. I think he's in it, but I will have to check. One thing I will say, guys, with the What Ifs, this is great, but I don't like that they put the actors in the credits at the beginning, because it spoils things. So I saw Chadwick's name in here, and I was like, oh, I thought Chadwick was done when he did episode 2. But then I saw his name, and I was like, oh, okay, well, obviously he's in here, and obviously he has like lines of dialogue. So it was great to see him, but it completely spoiled like some parts of the second half of the episode, where they find T'Challa, and it's like, oh, well, I knew he was coming because I saw his name in the credits. So I don't like that they chose to do that. I wish they would just keep everything till the end, and then we would just or to keep, you think this one wasn't advertised as T'Challa, so why was Chadwick's name in the beginning? Just keep it towards the end, or keep the big names out of it. I don't know. It's probably a contractual thing, but either way, rest in power, King. Great to see Chadwick, and great to hear him, I should say. He was awesome. But we're kind of jumping around here, guys. Eventually we find out that Bruce goes with Spidey, and then they go to find Hope. Hope saves them, because she comes over, and he's like, who are you? And they've never met, apparently. I guess Bruce and Hope have never met, which I guess makes sense, or at least not in this universe they haven't. And she's like, I'm the last one standing or whatever. And then that's when Spidey comes in, and Peter's not wearing his mask the whole episode, which is weird, I thought, but I guess because everyone's a zombie, he's like, does it not matter anymore? I don't know, it was strange to not see the mask on him, but they eventually go, and then we find out eventually from the Watcher that the zombie plague was actually created by the Pyms because Hank went in to see his wife in the quantum realm. It turns out his wife got like some sort of quantum disease where she turned into a zombie. So Hank went there, and he like goes over to see her, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you." And then she jumps on him, infects Hank. He goes back in like the time thing to the quantum realm where Hope's waiting, and Hank, of course, is a zombie and like lunges at Hope. Hope gets small and goes away, but we think Scott's dead because Scott is there as well, and he gets like jumped on. We're like, no. We find out later in the episode, guys, that Scott Lang is just a head in a jar, which is hilarious because whoever came up with that idea is amazing. We need more Paul Rudd and everything, and it's so great that he's like, oh yeah, I deal with my trauma now by making dad jokes. He's like, sorry, it went right to my head, and it's like, man, Paul Rudd is a treasure, dude. So, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over here, guys. I don't want to go beat for beat by the story, but eventually, there's a really cool scene where they get on the train, and they're like, oh, there might be a cure. We have to go find the signal, and then like Spidey goes to slingshot the train, and they get out. But there's a really awesome scene where Sharon Carter's with them as well, and then we get Zombie Cap that comes out because she takes down Sharon, and that's awesome. And then Cap comes over, and then Bucky like fights with him, and of course Cap throws the shield. What's really cool is that all these zombies, they're not like Walking Dead zombies where they can't do anything. They still have like all of the abilities of the real life people. So these are like super zombies where it's like Cap Zombie can still throw his shield. Zombie Iron Man can still like shoot with the pulsar guns or whatever. And then I think they get one of the pulse repulsor gloves either off of Tony, or they just have an extra set because Happy eventually gets on it, and Happy was in the beginning with Spidey, so I should have mentioned that, guys. But really funny because you see Peter like doing the homemade video stuff, and they're like, how to survive the apocalypse, and they go to see like Bucky in the shower, and all that stuff is awesome, and it's like it's really, really great, and it felt like the live action MCU. Eventually they do Hope ends up going like inside of one of the zombies in the train, and she goes into Sharon, and then she literally she expands, and so she blows up Sharon, and then she's like, oh, I have Sharon all over me. But somehow from doing that, she got a cut on her arm, which like infected her, and they talk about how she's going to be turning into a zombie. But hers, even though the mutations are like really quick in the episode where it's like literally seconds, for hers it's like taking a while. So I don't know if it was just like a normal cut from a zombie instead of like a bite, and that, I don't know, that was confusing. But we do get a cool scene with Bucky where he grabs Cap's shield, throws it back at him, Cap Zombie I should say, and then he like, the shield goes through him, so it cuts Cap in half, and he's like, sorry buddy, this is the end of the line for you. And I'm like, oh. And there were some really good lines in here and some really cheesy lines, which I think has kind of been like What If's thing, where it's like teetering on adult, like MCU dark humor, and like kid show. So it doesn't really know exactly what it wants to be. It's probably trying to keep a broader audience there, but all that stuff is awesome. Eventually they go to, the train runs out of fuel. There's one guy there that's like kind of like Zemo, but it's just like a random guy, I think. So that was kind of strange because I think it was trying to be like Zemo. But they're going there, and they have to go through to, I think I may have skipped over the part, guys, where, no, sorry. So they're going into the base, but there's a huge horde of zombies, and they're like, we have to walk through that. So like, there's no way we can get through them, and then Hope is like, no, but we can go over them. And they're like, Hope, what are you talking about? And Hope eventually gets big, and she's like, look, my time has come. She's like, I'm gonna do this for you guys. She like puts them in her arms, and she like walks over, and she's kicking like zombies and shit. And then she like puts them down over the fence where the base is, and then she's like, she says, has a really weird line where she tells Peter, there's a nice moment. Sorry, I feel like this is the most Project Potter review ever, where I'm just like, my brain is going everywhere right now. There's a really nice moment in the train where Peter is talking to Hope, and Hope is like, how do you do it, kid? There's like a weird, almost like love connection with them. And so she's like, how do you stay so upbeat after everything? And Peter has a great speech where he's like, Uncle Ben, Aunt May, and he's like, or my Aunt May used to tell me, he's like, all these experiences, he's like, I just practice. He's like, you gotta be upbeat, because he's like, I think he says like, Aunt May used to tell me, if we don't smile when they can't, then we're just as good as they are, or something. It's kind of a weird quote, but it's also really nice. And so they all are like, Peter. And so right before Hope like Hope drops them off, and she's like, hey Peter, because she's like getting overwhelmed, and she's like, smile for me, Peter. And I'm like, what? This just get weird. But anyway, they go into the base, and then it's really cool. It's really funny because Happy has like the repulsor gloves on, and he's like, he's shooting it. He's like pew pew pew, and she's like, someone's like, what are you doing? You're saying pew pew as you go, and he's like, I don't know, and he's like pew pew pew, and then he actually gets like dragged into like the dark abyss or whatever, and he's like pew pew pew, and it's like pew, and it slowly like goes out. And then he turns into a zombie like immediately, so we lose Happy, which is sad. I'm just kind of clearing out the base. Eventually we find, like I said, Paul Rudd's head in a jar there, which is great. And then Doctor Strange's cape goes around him so he can kind of move around a little bit. Paul Rudd is hilarious. And then we find Vision, and it turns out that Vision has been putting out a signal, and he cured Paul Rudd, or he cured Scott Lang, because I don't know if they mentioned how he found him, but basically I think all of Scott's body got like eaten besides his head, and then somehow he survived, and then Vision cured him with the Mind Stone. And they're like, oh, well, we can cure more people. And he's like, we should be able to, but they're like, we have to disperse it out, and so we have to do this and that. And then Bucky's like, I'm gonna go clear out the base. And Vision's like, you might not like what you find. And I was like, oh, Vision's up to some shit. Also, we get Paul Bettany back as Vision, which is amazing. And I think almost everyone returns for their role here. We definitely get Sebastian Stan as Bucky. And I thought he was better in this one than he was in the opening episode, where his lines felt very like flat. So that was better. But Bucky eventually finds Wanda, zombie Wanda, and she's like super powerful. And this is fucking cool because they're like, oh, Vision is like, she hasn't eaten in 3 days. Because they're like, you woke her up, and then like the doors blow off, and they're like, why didn't you cure her? And he says like, her powers are rejecting it. Like, she's so strong that she's like rejecting the Mind Stone. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And they're like, why don't you just kill her? And he's like, kill Wanda? No, but he's like, I can't. He's like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. And it's like, shit. We also get Okoye who joins them, which I didn't mention before, guys. And she says they're looking for Black Panther, and he went missing with the Avengers. But Denai Guerrera, if that's how you say her name, if not, sorry, I will put it in here. She's always awesome as Okoye in I can never say it. Their tribe name, it's like the Dharma Melage or whatever. They're always awesome, but it's just her this time. And we get a little bit of a zombie Hawkeye in the base there, which is cool. So Wanda breaks out, she's fighting them, and it's really cool, dude. She's like super powerful, and it looks awesome, and she's like messed up. And eventually they go outside, and then Bucky's kind of like searching around the base, and he finds T'Challa, who like lost his leg, and it looked like he was being like experimented on. It was weird, but we find out here that Vision actually was like sending a signal out to lead innocent people to their death so that he can like feed Wanda's zombie brains or something. This was kind of confusing, but basically he's like keeping her alive. It's messed up, but basically Vision is like, oh my god, I need to like repent and make up for like my mistakes. And so Vision actually ends up like ripping the Mind Stone out of his own head, which is weird because I don't think he should be able to do that on his own. That was the whole point, is that Wanda had to use her powers to break it, but whatever. That was like the whole point of Infinity War, is that he was like, we're out of time. Wanda, I need you to destroy this thing. And this time he's like, ow, and he just like takes it out. And so it was still cool, but they just like take the Mind Stone out and give it to like Bruce, and then they get in the jet. Chadwick is awesome once again, dude, as T'Challa. Super good, and he looks really cool, and no one's wearing their mask in any of these things. I don't know. I guess they just don't care about masks anymore with the zombie apocalypse, but they get in like a Quinjet or whatever eventually, and they get to start, and they go off. And then at this point, I'm like, wait, Bruce said Thanos is coming. So I'm like, what? Where is Thanos? Why isn't he here? What's going on? Eventually they go away. They take down, Wanda I think is coming after them, but I don't think they take her out. I just watched this, guys, but I don't know how they deal with the Wanda, I almost said WandaVision, with the whole Wanda problem, but they're trying to fly away, and Hope like raises up, and Scott is like, Hope, no! And then she lets go like the last moment, or they like escape from her because he says, firing a thrusters, and it's like, let's go, Chadwick. And they get away, and then Scott is like, oh, that's 2 times she saved my life, and he's like, that's so Hope. And I was like, oh man, poor Paul Rudd, dude. But they get away, and then the Watcher says, like, even in the darkest of times, humans will do whatever they can to try and save their planet or whatever. And I think they're going to take the Mind Stone to like disperse it or whatever. But it sucks because, well, let me say at the very end here, guys. So we do see zombie Thanos at the end here. And he does like the Infinity Gauntlet thing, and he looks pretty cool, but he's got all the Infinity Stones, and I'm like, how did you get those? And now I'm wondering, like, when you're a zombie, do you still keep your brain capacity? Like, what's going on here? Because the characters are pretty much acting like themselves. They're just like bloodthirsty. So That's how the episode ends. So it's almost like I think we're getting it to be continued. I'm guessing for next week or maybe later on for the series finale. I don't know, but this is like I think the first. It doesn't say to be continued. It could just be the end of the story, but it seems like they're going to get the cure. Thanos is here. They're going to fight Thanos. It seems like a big fight. I'm sure they're going to cure Wanda somehow, and then she's going to fight Thanos. But really, really cool episode. Okay, guys, strongest character for this one. Dude, it's Scott Lang. Of course, it's Paul Rudd. It's so hard for me not to pick Paul Rudd in any Marvel thing, just anything he's in general, but Marvel especially, where he was the comedy, he was like the punchline, not the punchline, but he brought the comedy in this one. I mean, there were a lot of funny moments where it's like Happy saying like pew pew as he's shooting the repulsor gloves. That was cool. Good to see Sharon there. Good to see Bucky. And it was kind of weird because Bucky kills Zombie Cap and he's like, oh, sorry, buddy, into the line. And then I think it's actually Bucky who has a line where he says like, oh, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't mention Zombie Falcon. Zombie Falcon was cool. It came in, which is weird now because spoilers for Falcon Winter Soldier. He's now the new Captain America, so they got like old school Falcon. This was Infinity War timeline, so it made sense. But he comes in there and fucking Okoye slices him in half, dude. I was like, whoa. And then she was like, I'm sorry, that was your friend, right in front of Bucky. And Bucky was like, I should be more sad, but I'm not. And it was such a weird line where I'm like, I mean, I guess it's a zombie, but also you're going for a cure, so you're trying to probably save the Avengers because you're hoping to get a cure and then just disperse it so you can just get the Avengers back. But yeah, it's anyway, guys. Paul Rudd, best part of this one, hilarious. Put his head in a jar, amazing. Whoever came up with that idea, give them a bonus right now, dude, because that was fantastic. And yeah, he was just the best part. He's always such a delight, and I love Paul Rudd, and he was the strongest character in a strong episode. Hey guys, weakest character for me, not really her fault, but Sharon Carter. I think I was just kind of like, do we need Sharon Carter in this one? She gets exploded from inside. Like Hope, when Hope did that, I was like, Jesus, Hope. Like she's like, oh, I have Sharon over me, but then she ended up taking out Hope basically because she cut her, which I still don't know how that makes sense. That you get cut from the inside. She just expanded, whatever, but. Yeah, I thought I was just kind of like, I don't know if we needed Sharon in this one. It's kind of just like, she's one of the B characters. I would have liked, like Nick Fury or like Commander Hill to be in this, or like Captain Marvel, or one of the other bigger names that it's like, oh, cool, like this is a cool zombie appearance. But instead we got Sharon Carter, and I was like, you kind of, do you need to be in this universe? I don't know, all due respect to Sharon Carter's actress, but, she was the weakest character, I think, for me in this one. Okay, guys, that brings us to the score. This one is tough. If you guys remember last week, I absolutely adored last week's episode. I thought it was amazing, heartbreaking. A lot of the fun moments were in here. I'm still struggling a little bit with what if's like kind of balance between kids show and dark Marvel series, where it's like this was a really dark premise, and at times it felt really cool and really awesome. And in times they were like, oh, let's make a funny line, or like the comedy was good, but they were like, oh, let's make something a cheesy line, or let's do this, or this is goofy. And I'm like, you're kind of taking me out of it a little bit. With that being said, guys, this is still a 9.4. This is a very strong episode. I love the animation. It was awesome. I'm really getting used to it now. And I just thought to have all the different Avengers in there. There's a funny line where Scott Lang is like, he's like, oh, you forgot about me? He's like, I'm an Avenger. He's like, not officially, but he's like, mostly. And T'Challa's like, oh, the world needs heart right now. And again, they fly away, so it's probably a part 1 of 2, but it doesn't officially say that, so that could just be the way the story wraps up, and we were kind of like meant to think like they hopefully saved the cure and took down Thanos, but to see him with the Infinity Gauntlet, like to not get a continuation, that would be, I think, a big miss, so we'll see where that comes up again. But yeah, dude, really awesome stuff. I love how they had so many different, like, they had a couple different locations. The art design was awesome. They really like shined on Peter too. And again, I'm not sure if that was Tom Holland. I would say probably, but obviously when I take a look at the credits here, we'll see. But I don't think I saw his name in the beginning, but he was awesome. We got Zombie Wong too, where his head gets cut off in the beginning. That was really cool. I forgot to mention that, guys, but just really, really awesome. Big characters you love, the big storyline. It was a little weird that they're just like, oh, well, the zombie plague came from the quantum realm, and then someone got bit and someone else got bit, and like they said, within like hours or whatever, like the whole like all of San Francisco or whatever was like taken over. And I'm like, how though? Like, don't you think it's just weird that like the Avengers showed up, and then the Watcher says like when Earth's mightiest heroes fell, no one else stood a chance. But I'm like, you think the Avengers would be a little more prepared for this instead of just getting like bit or whatever? I don't know. That part was kind of weird, but all in all, guys, very, very strong episode, and I really enjoyed it. And these are feeling a little bit more now like MCU. I don't want to say like appetizers or like fillers, but feeling more substantial than just like some one-off shows. Okay, guys, that's another episode of Marvel Madness. We are 5 episodes in, guys, so we are more than halfway now because there's only 9 this season, and I don't know if they're doing a season 2, but I'm assuming if this is successful, depending on the budget and everything, I'm sure they're gonna fund a season 2. But who knows? This show is cool because they can kind of do whatever they want because it's animation, so they don't have to have the actors pull off these stunts or anything like that. They can do all these crazy things. And then if people like it, I'm sure people are watching it. I'm sure people are enjoying What If, so they'll probably do more, but who knows? We'll see. But thanks for checking out Project Potter, guys. Thanks for checking out the channel and this Marvel Madness review. Appreciate you guys stopping by. If you did like the content, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. It does help me out. And until next time, guys, what if?